All right, let's dive into one of the most important and honestly surprising rules in all of finance. And you know what? It's got nothing to do with complicated formulas or trying to predict the market. Nope, it's all about understanding, well, ourselves.
Okay, let's just start with this fundamental truth right here. You are not a spreadsheet, right? You're a human being, a wonderfully complex, sometimes messy, emotional person. And you know what? Accepting that, truly accepting it, is the absolute key to investing in a way you can actually stick with. The goal isn't to be some cold, calculating robot. It's just to be consistently reasonable.
So, what's the difference really? Well, think about it like this. Rational is all about what's optimal. It's what's mathematically perfect on paper. But reasonable, that's about what's tolerable. It's about what's sustainable, what's, human. It's basically the difference between some strategy that looks amazing in a textbook and one you can actually truly stick with when things get messy in the real world.
And to really get our heads around this, we're going to look at a powerful analogy from a field you probably weren't expecting: medicine. It's called the fever paradox. So get this, can a disease actually be a cure? It sounds crazy, right? Well, this is the strange but true story of a guy named Julius Wagner Jauregg. He actually won a Nobel Prize for an idea that was, well, pretty radical. He figured he could treat syphilis by intentionally giving patients malaria, all to trigger a really high fever. Now here's the science, and it's pretty amazing. A fever is actually a brilliant defense mechanism. I mean, just a 1-degree bump in your body temperature can slow down a virus's replication by as much as 200 times. So from a purely rational, purely biological point of view, a fever is exactly what your body should be doing. It's the optimal response.
But here's the thing, right? We all know this. Fevers feel awful. They hurt, you get the shivers, you ache, you just want it to stop. So what do? We reach for the medicine to bring that fever down, even though technically it might actually slow down our recovery. And what are we doing in that moment? We're being perfectly reasonable. We're choosing what's tolerable for us as humans over what is biologically optimal.
Okay, so that same exact logic applies directly to how we should think about our money. It really all comes down to something I call the sleep-at-night test.
And for the perfect example of this, let's talk about this guy, Harry Markowitz. Now, he is basically the father of modern portfolio theory. I mean, he won a Nobel Prize for creating these incredibly complex, hyper-rational mathematical formulas that, giant institutions all over the world use to invest. He is Mr. Rational.
So you have to wonder, right? How did this mathematical genius invest his own money? Did he fire up a supercomputer and use his own Nobel Prize-winning formulas? Nope, not at all. He just split his retirement savings 50-50. Half in stocks, half in bonds. That's it. A shockingly simple, totally reasonable approach. And when people asked him why, his answer was so simple and so human. He said he just wanted to minimize his future regret. See, his goal wasn't about squeezing out every last drop of returns. He just knew that if the market went crazy and soared, he'd have enough in stocks so he wouldn't feel like he missed out. And if it crashed, he'd have enough in bonds to feel secure. He wasn't optimizing for returns. He was optimizing for peace of mind. Now, let's contrast that with a purely rational strategy, just to see the difference. There was this famous study out of Yale that argued young people should actually borrow money, we're talking 2-to-1 leverage, to pile into the stock market.
And you know what? On paper, the math works out. It shows you could end up with 90% more wealth over your lifetime. But in the real world, it is absurdly unreasonable. I mean, could you really imagine watching your entire life savings get wiped out in a crash and just calmly sticking with the plan? Of course not. No normal person could handle that. And that's the point. A rational strategy that you can't actually stick with is worse than having no strategy at all.
So this all leads to a really fascinating twist. What if our emotions, the very things every finance book tells you to suppress, could actually be our biggest advantage? I mean, think about some of the things that finance experts might call irrational, right? Like home bias, where you mostly invest in companies from your own country, or buying stocks in companies you just personally love and believe in. These things seem emotional, but they have this huge hidden rational benefit. They create a powerful sense of commitment, and that commitment is what makes you far more likely to stick with your investments when the going gets tough.
And why is that commitment so absolutely critical? Because it is the one thing that unlocks the market's greatest superpower: time. I mean, think about this. Historically, the U.S. stock market has never lost money over any 20-year period, 100% success rate. So that means that any behavior, even one that seems a little irrational, that helps keep you in the game for the long haul, well, that's not a weakness. That is your single most powerful advantage.
And there is no better example of this principle in action than the legendary Jack Bogle. You know, the founder of Vanguard, the absolute king of low-cost, super-rational index fund investing. Well, even he admitted to investing some of his money in his son's much higher fee active fund. And when asked why, his answer was perfect. He just said, "We do some things for family reasons." He wasn't being rational. He was being reasonable.
So let's bring this all home. How does this translate into a real strategy for your financial life? Well, here's the ultimate takeaway.
The most crucial point, the thing to remember from all of this is simple. Reasonable is greater than rational. It just is. So stop chasing that mathematically perfect strategy you read about somewhere. Instead, just focus on finding a good strategy that you can actually live with. One that is sustainable for you, your personality, and your life.
Because when it comes right down to it, what is the single best investment strategy in the world? It's not the one with the highest possible return on a spreadsheet. It's the one that lets you sleep at night. It's the one that minimizes your future regret. And most importantly, it's the one that you can stick with for the longest possible time. That's the strategy that actually wins in the end.